Hey, what's up, you guys? Kurt Stubbs back with another episode of the Ohio High School Hoops Around the State podcast. Back today with a name you'll know. Probably been off the grid for a little while for most of you guys. Mr. Estaban Weaver, how you doing today?
I'm good, sir. How about yourself?
Not too bad. What have you been up to, man? Where's life got
Just,
you right now?
just enjoying life, man. Just living life the right way, trying to stay out, stay away from all this badness, and raising my 11-year-old son.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, so I've watched your documentary from 2016 like two or three times. It was a
Mhm.
great, very well done. So I wanted to start with it. I wanted to ask you what was your overall thoughts on the documentary?
Uh, after I actually watched it, I was actually touched by it. It brought me to tears. But before that even happened, I was real skeptical about it because throughout my life, I've had people approach me about doing a documentary about my life and everything like that. So, first in the beginning, I was kind of a little wary of it, but once everything started to take shape, I was very touched by it.
Yeah, I thought it was very well done. I guess I didn't know how much that you had input wise into the
Mm-hmm.
final product. But my overall takeaway was there was just so many people that love you. Even though you may have messed up, as much as the next guy,
Uh-huh.
people still talked about your huge heart and just you were somebody that was always there,
Mm-hmm.
despite the troubles that you might have been going through.
Right. Yeah, they call me the people's champ, so I kind of take that name with pride.
Yeah, I know. Towards the end, man, Jamel Cornley, you had him choked up pretty well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's a little bit younger than you. Is he a guy that you took under your wing? As he was trying to navigate, um, you know, going through the process of everything.
Yeah, just being a mentor slash big brother to him. He coming home from playing at Penn State, and then he went over and played professionally overseas, and just trying to, just going and navigating through life, just trying to figure out different obstacles and how to get around them or over them. And he had hit a little wall at one point in time, so I was just glad that I could be, somebody to be in his life as far as a mentor to kind of help steer him in the right direction.
Yeah, one of the things that for people listening out there, one of the things I thought was cool. The first time I messaged Esteban, he was telling me that he had a basketball game. Now you were talking about you, right? You were playing.
Yeah. Hmm.
So you're
Yeah.
still going at it. How's the game right now? What, a little
The
slower?
game. Yeah, game. Yeah, the game. Yeah, I didn't lost a step, but I'm still pretty much there as far as my athleticism and everything. But I'm still me. I still get out there and give guys 30, 40 points a game if need be.
Now you'll be what, 44 coming up?
I'll be for, I'll be 44 in August,
That
August 13th.
That's hard to believe, and I'm sure some of the people that will be listening will be aged as well when they hear that.
Yeah.
So many people remember you from your earlier days, and that's kind of a good segue. Obviously, I watched the documentary several times, but
Hmm.
your first real basketball memories. I know you had a basketball in your hand for a long time, but what was your first
Hmm.
memory of playing?
Um, my first actual memory of actually playing would probably be with my father. Just taking me to the gyms when he would go. And my uncle at the time, Dwight Lamar, he had played for the Lakers, so he would come home, during the summer, and they would have summer games over at the Y on Woodland on the east side where I lived, and that was one of my real first recollections of actually playing basketball because I think I had to be about 5 or 6 maybe.
Now, just from the sounds of it, you were a kid that like truly loved basketball. Like you loved
Yes.
every part of it as far as just the smell of the gym and
Hmm.
just the atmosphere of basketball. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yes, yes. I actually, in my documentary, I was quoted as saying that I would like to have the gym smell for like some cologne. That's how obsessed I would, be at what I was at one point in time with the game of basketball. I mean, the game is just something that will always be a part of me. So,
So things happened for you early.
mhm,
You know, I guess I'll start with this. You were invited to the prestigious Nike All-American camp prior
mhm,
to even playing a high school game.
yeah,
I think it was at the when you went, it was at the Hoosier Dome out in Indianapolis.
yeah. Up Indianapolis at the Hoosier Dome. Yeah, and I never realized how big that dome was until we actually got in there.
So kind of give me like the scoop. How did you find out that you were going to be invited to this, and you know who reached out to you? How did it all come about?
Well, at the time, Bob Gibson was the president of the Nike All American camp. So, if you was ever to get accepted to their, you would get a letter in the mail from Nike. And I knew what it was. My mom didn't. My mom thought when she got it, she thought she thought I had got like a bunch of shoes or something from Nike. Excuse me. And I was trying to explain to her, like, no, like, I got accepted to go to the Nike camp, where only the 100 best players in the country is invited. And she couldn't understand because I wasn't in high school yet. And she was like, well, why did they send you this and you haven't played in high school yet? I said, Mom, obviously they must think I'm that good. So,
So your experience out there,
mhm.
how I mean, I think you were the only incoming freshman that got invited to that. Um,
Yeah, I was the only underclassman there. Everybody else was 10th grade, 11th, 12th.
was that an eye-opening experience, or was it something where you just came in and felt like, you belonged with the oldest guys there at the camp?
A little bit of both. I knew I belonged because of my basketball talent, but at the same time, I was also like a fan,
Yeah.
because I was a young guy and to be able to, stand around and talk to Kevin Garnett, Allen Iverson, Marbury, these guys, NBA legends. So, to be able to just sit around and, talk to them and develop relationships with them was, it was pretty cool thing for me. And I was roommates with Ronnie Fields.
Yeah, Ronnie Fields, another guy, not, I mean, a similar, situation with you, just,
Mm-hmm.
very, very talented.
Yeah.
Now, was there anybody when you walked out on the court was kind of like, wow, that guy's impressive. Like, did anybody wow you?
Iverson, more than
Sure.
anybody. I mean, everybody that was there, pretty much got my respect, and they earned my respect, and I got theirs also. But I would have to say Iverson because he was everything that it was advertised. He was quick as lightning. He can get up off the floor, and even though he was little, he was tough. He was strong as nails. And I got an opportunity to play with him. I wish I could have got a chance to play more, but at the time he was going back and forth. He had that court case in
Right.
Virginia for when the bowling alley situation. So I only got a couple chances, a couple times to actually play with him. So
Did guys know at the camp that you hadn't even played a high school game yet?
yeah, because they would always make jokes like they would get. It was always some type of young joke, like
Yeah.
Similac boy, go get the ball, or somebody go get him a diaper, or it was just all fun and games. But yeah, they took me in pretty much, like I was, one of their classmates or on their level as far as 10th, 11th grade. But my game spoke for itself. So I knew that I could play with them. I just was excited to be there, and just to be able to get there and then get all the young jokes getting thrown at you was it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Now, when you came back,
Mhm.
were things different for you after that? Was there a different type of buzz around you following that?
Yeah, everything pretty much took off after that because that's when they named me number one player freshman in the country. Once I came back home, they by grade, I held my own, and I actually was down there on a bum ankle. I had sprained my ankle playing in a tournament before I left there. So that's why I wasn't able to. That's why I wasn't able to get in the dunk contest. Because I wanted to get in there real bad, but I wasn't. For one, I had sprained my ankle, and for two, I had gotten in trouble. I was a little knucklehead, so I had I think I kicked a chair or something like that when they took me out the game. I felt like, I just got going and I, got grooving, and they took me out, and I got upset and kicked the chair, and everybody's seen it, so. Of course, I had to be disciplined for that. So they kept me out of the All-Star game in the dunk contest because I was going to make it. I was going to make the All-Star game, but, they took me out because of those reasons. So, you live and you learn.
So when you get back,
Mm-hmm.
how did you handle, I mean, if you were around with social media, I mean, it would have been absurd. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
how did you handle, because back then it was more like newspaper articles, magazines, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm sure, you had plenty of people that were, around you. How did you handle that when you got back and started to get all this attention?
To be honest with you, I handled it the best way that I could, as a teenager,
Hmm.
really not having my father around me, at that age, because I, kind of I lost him to the streets, being as far as being on drugs. So it was kind of hard for me to deal with it, I mean, I felt like I dealt with it, the best way I could, but it was very difficult because like as soon as I came back from the Nike camp and then they gave me the number one player in the country tag. So now everything is just different. I'm, on the front of magazines that's plastered all over the state of Ohio and, everywhere we go, everybody wants to standing room only because everybody wants to see, what this Weaver kid is about. So it was different when I came back from the Nike camp. That's when my actual basketball career took off.
Now you mentioned your father. He
Mm-hmm.
played like he liked to play as well.
Yeah, my father was actually very good, and he, me being his son, we kind of the same person, both knuckleheads. So him growing up, he made some mistakes too, growing up. So kind of enabled him to have a shot at playing professional basketball. So
Now you grew up on the east side of Columbus.
yeah,
How
I bounced around. I
right.
grew up at a young age on the east side. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So take me how did going to Bishop Hartley, I know that, that's on the east side, but how did that come about? How did you end up at Hartley?
A guy by the name of Evan Moore.
Okay.
He was a senior. He was a senior at the time at Bishop Hartley, and he was also my neighbor. He stayed across the street from me when I went. This is when I had went to a sophomore middle school, and he stayed directly across the street from there, and he would always come outside, and I was seeing dribbling a basketball. So me, basketball. Anytime I seen a basketball, I was always attracted to it. So I used to go over there and talk to him, and we started hanging out. And probably like a couple months later, his mother had built a full court basketball court in the back for us. So, we started having the fellas over and start playing, and he didn't know who I was and I didn't know who he was. And then, we became good friends. And then he asked me what grade I was in, and I told him. And then he was like, well, where are you going to high school? And I was like, honestly, to tell you the truth, I haven't really made my mind up, where I was going to go. I mean, I was going to go to Independence because that was the actual, that's where everybody went in the neighborhood. Once you left Southmore Middle School, you went to Independence. So I would have went to Independence my freshman year, but I ended up getting to know Evan Moore, and we became real close. And he was going to Bishop Hartley, so it wasn't a really hard decision because me and him had became good friends over the summer. So after that, I met the coach after that, and pretty much it was history after that.
I want to backtrack for a second. Were
Mm-hmm.
you were you hearing from college coaches prior to playing high school ball?
Yeah. hmm I would hear from college coaches all the time, letters and phone calls.
Yeah.
That a lot of coaches shouldn't have been making phone calls to me back then, but phone calls and visits, gifts. So and back then, like I said, I wasn't on social media like that. We didn't have social media, so it really kind of flew under the radar. But yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Who was the coolest like coach that you heard? Like what was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
The coolest coach I would have to say was Jerry Tarkanian.
Oh yeah.
Coolest cat you would ever want to meet, ever want to meet.
Man, you would have been
And
you would have been perfect out there at that Vegas show, man.
yeah, because it's perfect at directing a guy like me. Start and we might have cut bumps in the road and come on down here. We'll get you there. And I thought about that, but mine at a time where I was just like, well, if I'm due plus January, I'm only due 1 year because I was so at that time trying to be, but it was a lot of stress.
Yeah, I know, UNLV, especially in the 90s, was just known for, guy going and getting guys that, had a situation. Maybe you were at a JUCO, like
Yeah.
Larry
hmm
Johnson, and
Yeah.
yeah, so that would have been cool. It just goes to show how good you were. That that's the type of schools that were interested in you. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I found an article that somebody covered a scrimmage of yours up at Lexington High School near Mansfield prior to your
Uh-huh.
freshman year. Which, thinking back, like back in the 90s, that's probably unheard of that, somebody was covering a kid that had just left the eighth grade in a
Yeah.
scrimmage game.
Yeah. It got pretty crazy. I didn't expect it. When we got there, because we had left Hartley that morning to go scrimmage, and when we got there, it was a whole bunch of cars outside, and normally scrimmages you don't really have a lot of people in there for
Right.
scrimmages, a few, but it was so many cameras and news reporters in there, and I'm like, and the funny thing about it was I never thought they were there for me. I thought that they were just there, covering the game, because it was like two or three scrimmages going on, two or three different schools there. So it was like we were on one side, and I think it was I want to say Reynoldsburg maybe, and maybe another school, but it was just all nice competitive scrimmaging, and I think maybe like first 10 minutes we got in there, I started looking around and noticing that the cameras, like everywhere I went, they start following me. And my homeboy Leandre Marshall, who was my shooting guard at the time, he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and get out your way because we can't stand in front of a superstar's way." So they used to always crack jokes and make jokes about it and stuff. But it was cool.
So your freshman year at Hartley, I mean, it's you guys are 23-3,
Mhm.
make a regional final. You were a pretty senior dominant team though. Yeah, like Rod
Yeah.
Stewart and um, you mentioned Moore and
Yeah, we had Evan. We had Marshall, Lowe. We had Arthur Lowe. He was another point guard of ours. Chris Talley. Oh man, we had a nice squad. We had a real nice squad. We were balanced. I could say that for the most. We were balanced.
so you come in with all these seniors and you end up being first team All Ohio as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
You lose a tough game in the regional final to I think Indian Valley
Yeah,
down at OU if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
You had a 29 points, 12 rebounds. You had a rough night shooting behind the arc, but
Mm-hmm.
um, they had a kid I noticed. He came off the bench and had 25 points against you guys in that game. But I think it looked like shooting was. I think you were 2 of 20 from three in that
Yeah,
game.
I couldn't throw a rock in the lake that day.
Do you remember that game?
I remember it vaguely, yeah, because
Yeah.
I was trying my hardest to, get on track shooting. I mean, because, obviously I can get to the basket, but I was just more or less trying to, get my jump shot going, but I could not get it going.
So for people that maybe didn't see you play or have only
Mm-hmm.
seen, the minimal clips that are out there,
Mm-hmm.
um, shout out to City League Hoops TV. I think has a video of you your senior year, but you
Yeah.
know you were an unbelievable ball handler. I just vividly remember you using that spin move
Mm-hmm.
in the open floor, and you were just you looked like a pro guard. At that, you kind of reminded me of the only thing I've ever seen similar to you as far as like a guy that looked like he could have played in the league right then was OJ Mayo. You
Mm-hmm.
guys had similar body styles, but was it difficult to come in and lead that team with a bunch of seniors, or did they kind of just give you the reins?
They pretty much gave me the reins. Once I got there and they seen that I was serious, they pretty much just gave me the reins, and everybody just pretty much stepped back and just played their positions, and then everybody was along for the ride. But I appreciate them allowing me to be a leader for them at such a young age, because the responsibility was heavy. You got all these seniors, who's about to leave off and go to college, and here I am just walking into high school. So for them to, be able to humble themselves and allow me to be their leader, it spoke volume about that team and who they are as people.
So talk to me. So after this, obviously a phenomenal season.
Mm-hmm.
Your coach. Talk to me about what it was like playing for Coach Tom Burry is who you played for, right?
Tim Byrie.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So talk
Yeah.
to me about what it was like. What type of coach was he? How was he to play for?
Um, I can probably say he's probably the best coach I've ever, had ever in my life. Because not only was he, uh, uh, concerned about me as an athlete, he was more concerned about me as a person. And not only just me. It was everybody. He treated everybody, like we were family, like we were his children. It was nothing that you couldn't go talk to him about. It was nothing that couldn't be said around him. So just coaching, playing for him it was it was easy. He never really yelled. He wasn't really one of those coaches. I mean, every once in a while, he'd scream and yell and he'd turn bright red, and we used to try to stop laughing so much because it was rare for him to get angry like that.
Yeah.
But playing for him was it was a breeze, man. He was a good coach. He was a great mentor to me. He still is. We talk every once in a while still to this day. But yeah, he was a great coach.
Yeah, he prior to his time at Hartley, he had taken
Mm-hmm.
Mansfield St. Peter to the state tournament, I believe, in 1990, right
Mm-hmm.
before he came to Hartley. Sophomore year comes about,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a wild ride. You guys finished 21-6. Matt Lowry comes over from Fairfield Union,
Mm-hmm.
and you dropped down, I think, to second team All Ohio for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Your sophomore year. Um, Talk to me. At some point, mid February.
Mm-hmm.
I had read where you had quit the team. Is that correct?
Yeah, I stepped away from the team because it was a lot of inside stuff going on with the school as far as me, Coach Byrie, and some of the other players. Like, they never really brought it about, but they were angry about Coach Byrie having too many black kids on the team and the black kids taking the other kids' playing time. So, they kind of tried to sweep it up under the rug and whatever and try to not really make it a race thing. But at the end of the day, it was. So, because my plan was to stay there. When I went there after my freshman year, and we finished the way we finished, I sat down and I talked to Coach Byrie and I said, well, I don't want to go to college. I want to stay here for 4 years and then I'm going to enter the draft. And we had talked about it. And he said, if that's what you want to do, then that's what we'll do. So that was the plan, was to stay at Hartley my whole 4 years with him. And they knew that the only way they could get me up out of there is, if they got Coach Byrie out of there, because that was the only reason why I was there. Because Evan had graduated my sophomore year, Leandre and Art, which was two of my good friends, they ended up graduating. So I was there, by myself. There myself going into my junior year, you know what I'm saying? We had pretty much a different team, minus me and I think like maybe two other people. But, they knew it wasn't going to work out. So they asked him to resign instead of firing him. So, and I don't understand how you can fire a coach who's had winning season, 20-plus win seasons the last 3 years that, he was there. And this was prior to me coming. And then we just cranked it up a notch and, I never got that. But, after everything was said and done, he sat down and talked to me about it and then, told me that, that was the decision that they made because of the outside parents, that's spending all the money for their kids to go there and they're not getting no playing time. So, it was, at least that was their excuse.
Yeah, interesting. I remember you, and this is crazy because this is no internet, no social media. I grew up in Eastern Ohio, almost in West Virginia, and I knew who you were. I had relatives in Columbus. They were like, man, you got to see this guy, Estaban Weaver. He's unbelievable. So I told some of my buddies about you, and they saw you as a sophomore at the state tournament when you played against Wheelersburg. And they were like, they came back and they just could not rave enough about you. They were like, you were right. You were right. This kid's unbelievable. So growing up in Eastern Ohio, I'm thinking, wow, okay, this kid's got two more cracks at Hartley. I mean, they're going to definitely win, a title. And so you guys do, you're averaging 20 and 10. Matt Lowry had a good season. You beat Marymount, Germantown, Valley View. You get to the state and you're playing Wheelersburg in front of almost 13,000 people. Talk to me about what happened in that game. I mean, you had a great 28 points, but talk to me about what happened in that game.
Man, just down the stretch, we just had a mental breakdown. And to this day, I still don't get it. I mean, we took a timeout, we huddled. We said that we was going to start running certain plays to my side. And they just started going away from me, running the plays to the opposite side for some reason. And we start breaking down, losing, loose balls. And they would come down and get layups off of our turnovers and stuff like that. So it was just a mental breakdown. Like, we just had a brain fart.
Yeah, so you had 28 points in this game. Matt Lowry had 19. Interesting, and I don't know if this was just the way the game was played at the end. You guys only attempted 9 free throws, and they attempted 28.
I mean, I'm not the one thing I try not to do is, when you clearly see that the refs are on their side, I try my best to keep my mind in the game and try to stay focused because that can be an easy distraction. Getting angry at the refs because they're clearly not calling no fouls. And, and that's just basically what it was. I mean, I did everything I felt like I could to keep us close because we were down by like 12 with like maybe like 4 minutes left. And I hit like 3 threes in a row to get us down to 3. And then we just really couldn't, like right there, we couldn't turn that corner. Now, and then to make it worse, I think the state championship was played the next day or the day after, and the score was like 32-30 or something like that. So I was, you know, everything happens for a reason.
Is that a game? I'm sure that you can remember the atmosphere vividly.
Mm-hmm.
St. John Arena. I mean, that was
Yeah. Yeah,
because
we had that bad boy rocking. I actually still have the game on VHS somewhere in my basement.
because I'm sure that was a big deal because Ohio State I know was recruiting you by that point for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And to be able to, to be able to play and, play well, in St. John was, it was a blessing. I wish we could have came because if we would have won that game, we definitely was gonna win the state because I can't think of the team after us, but they didn't. They had nothing for us, so we just couldn't get over that hump.
So we talked about kind of how the season after the season ended. Were you
Mm-hmm.
playing? Were you playing? Were you playing with all? Did you play with All Ohio in the summer following your sophomore season?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All Ohio Red.
Now, Jerry Watson has been around forever.
Yeah.
Who,
Dinosaur.
yeah, who was on that team with you playing travel ball?
Oh man. Antoine Lavender. Um, Aaron Turner. Andre Turner. Michael Red. Um, Kenny Gregory. I think Kenny played with us. Maybe no. Kenny didn't play with us. He played with another AAU team. Um, Johnny Carson. You remember Johnny Carson?
Oh yeah, was he from Springfield?
Yeah, Springfield, Ohio. Yeah, rest in peace to my guy Johnny. Yeah, Johnny Carson. We had a couple. We had a couple other guys from out of town too, that from like the Dayton, Cincinnati area. So yeah, that was pretty much our core squad right there.
Now, who was coaching you guys?
We coached ourselves, to be honest with you. I mean,
Okay.
Coach Howard, like he was our coach, but we pretty much coached ourselves on the floor because like we all knew what needed to be done and what I'm saying where we needed to go. So we only lost twice in 3 years.
Now, travel ball has obviously taken off. I mean, with the
Mm-hmm.
shoe sponsored,
Mm-hmm.
with Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike kind of taking the reins of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
What was it, comparably speaking? What was it like, back then? Because I'm sure you've seen, some of the stuff that's going on today. What was I know it wasn't as publicized as much as it is now.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, it was, because of social media. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Without social media, none of this stuff would be publicized or be the way it is now. But even back then, it was still, it was still something that was, talked about or it was, done or whatever it may be. So, just back, even from, like I said, back then, from that standpoint, without social media, it was still heavy back then.
So, following your summer, you you head off to Maine Central Institute to play for Max Good. Um,
Man,
Ma- Maine is a long way from Columbus, Ohio, and
yes.
on the basketball court, you were doing something that um, not many people did at that school. With the points per game that you were averaging, because that was not normal for a Max Good team to have
Right.
somebody doing what you were doing. So from a basketball standpoint, it looked like you were performing well, but I'm sure as a young kid, mentally being that far away from home had to be
Mhm.
wearing on you.
Yeah, I got a crazy story to tell you. The day or the day after, I was down there not even really 48 hours when I got down there, and I was accused of rape. So yeah, it was crazy. I mean, they at the end of the day, they got they figured out it wasn't me. And I got an apology, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. But they was going to lock me up. Like they had pulled me into the office, and the police was there, and they had my mom on the phone, and come to find out, the lady who supposedly said that I raped her, she recanted her story because they kept telling her, like, well, he just got here. He couldn't have raped you a week ago. He just got here yesterday. You know what I mean? And once she started hearing that from other people, she's like, oh, well, that's not him. That's not the guy. So by that time, I had a bad taste in my mouth from that situation. I was ready to go home then. My mom, she kept begging me, like, no, please, just try to tough it out. I know this is just, they're trying to, get you down. But I didn't feel comfortable there, especially after that situation.
So how did you get to, Maine? Who did you talk to? What was the process to getting up there?
Well, my mom, she was always desperately looking for me to get out of the city,
Right.
because, she didn't want me there because, I was just, all my bad habits were there in the city. So, she was just looking around for different schools and, out of town schools. And she actually found Maine, and she called herself and talked to coach, and, actually, obviously who I was. And, I went down for her. I really didn't want to go. I mean, obviously, but love and respect that I got from my mother. I said, I'm at least gonna give it a. So, I got down there, and like I said, I mean, academic wise, I was fine. I was performing basketball wise. I was performing well, but I just got too homesick to the point where I was like, I can't. I don't like it here. It's just this is just not for me. And I knew that I couldn't. I knew they couldn't kick me to school because, like I said, grades were fine. So I just knew that I knew how to get kicked out, and I just invited some ladies over to my room, and we were not allowed to have females in our room because of some previous situation that happened years ago before I got there. But they made it to where women were not allowed in our room. So I just invited some women over, just, so they can see. And as soon as they seen it, the next day I had a plane ticket on my door.
So you get back from Maine. So we're talking your junior year at this point. For people here in Ohio, it was kind of like you were gone. Like you had just went off the radar, and you were like this mythical character that was here, for a short time, and boom, you're gone. And then you started to resurface. I know the Dispatch talked about you enrolling at Independence. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Gregory, a friend of yours,
Mm-hmm.
uh, was he the guy, the one that got the ball rolling on you, possibly teaming up with him at Independence?
No, not really. I mean, I just knew that if I was there, I mean, obviously, you saying we want to be teammates. So, really didn't talk until we got to school. Our sisters and then was making me please come to, like, wish you, you and fair school, high school. So, me, big brother, I had away from them for a couple of years. So I decided to go. And then when I went there, everybody found out that I'm actually there. Then that's me actually talking about the teaming up, because I actually got there in the middle of my junior year. Their season had been started, so I had got there in the middle of my junior year. So I finished that year, and then played together my senior year.
Yeah, that's you get back there, and where is your, like, the publicity for you at this point in time, as far as everything had happened so early? Was that stuff still going on, or had it tapered off a little bit?
It tapered off a little bit, thank Lord, because I didn't mind it, but all the time, it just never really had me an opportunity to be a kid. I had to grow up real fast as far as in that situation. But yeah, it tapered off a little bit. And like I said, I was kind of, I was happy that it was tapering off because for one, you know, like I said, I didn't really mind it, but it bothered me a little bit also. And then, it's time for somebody else, to get the spotlight. Like it's been on me for too long. Like, shine that light on somebody else that's well deserving of it.
Yeah, you talk about that, and I'm sitting here talking to you today. You're almost 44 years old, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost hard to believe that like, with everything that you had going against you,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost crazy to believe, and I don't know if you feel that way at times too, that you're still sitting here, that you're still out making an impact and things like that with, um, just the uphill battle that you faced with, you know, just life itself, but then you throw the basketball stuff on top of it, and I'm sure that was
Mm-hmm.
almost like an outlet for you when you played.
Yeah, it was a big outlet. It gave me an opportunity to just relieve so much tension, so much stress. Because to know that the only reason why I didn't make it is because of my mistakes is something that, you know, I gotta live with. Because it was guys that made it to the league that wasn't better than me, talent wise, but they did what they had to do to get there. You know what I'm saying? They made the right decisions, they stayed around the right people, made sure they kept their nose clean. And that was something that I wasn't able to do. And I was just guilty by association. And I get that. If you're gonna invest millions and dollars into somebody, you want to know who that person is. So and when they started and doing their background with me, their background with me is, for one, I'm unstable because I bounce around to different schools and I don't sit still. And I hang around drug dealers and killers. And that was a true fact. I mean, that was my neighborhood. That's who I grew up around. And, that was just what it was.
Yeah, I mean, people can talk about it now because, you've put your story out there, but early on in your career, freshman year, sophomore year, for people to think that you would have never played in the NBA would have been crazy.
Mm-hmm.
With the ability level that you had, um, it's easy to say now because they know the things that you messed up, and because you've put
Right.
that out there, you've been transparent about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of the all-time great, shockers that you never, played in the NBA. And I'm sure you sat there and watched games with guys your age and thought, man,
Yeah.
I'm better than that guy, or I was definitely better than that guy.
Yeah. It was a hard pill to swallow. I didn't watch basketball for a few years because it was just that painful. Knowing that, not only that I should be there, but my family should be in a different position, and then I put so much blame on myself, for a lot of things that my family go through, especially financially, because, I could have fixed all that shit, but, just making the wrong decisions and, just being a young knucklehead and not really having no guidance, the right guidance. This is what happens. That's why I love to be a walking testament of, who I am, because I can actually tell somebody about my life and, it's believable. Like none of this stuff is made up. This is really what I went through. The struggle was real. Have I ever thought about suicide? A couple times, but I never physically got to the point where, I could bring myself to that. But just, you know, knowing that I can just, not be here no more and not have all this hurt and this pain and, the struggle. Because little things would just make me sad. Like, my mom being late on a car bill or, not having enough money to get some groceries that she need or whatever it may be, knowing that I could have eased all of that if I would have made the right decisions, it hurt.
Yeah, I mean, you truly have an impactful story that is gonna, definitely change the lives of many people. God obviously had a different plan for you, than,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the picture you would have painted at an early age. And it's crazy to think, you know, listening to you, it's like, you know, you got into all these things. You talked about, you know, being in the streets and things like that, but it seemed like your heart was always in like the right, like doing the right thing. Like it was like you just couldn't get out of your own way. But
Right, exactly.
you knew what the right thing was, and your heart knew what the right thing. It was just you couldn't get out of your own way, and it was like, you know, one series of things after another.
Right, right, yeah. And then it just got to the point where my window of opportunity was gone. You know, because you know the people don't want to, you know, they don't want to keep hearing the same over and over again. Like, you know, I had an opportunity. Um, I played. And a lot of people think I'm crazy about this, but you know, I had worked so hard to get myself in a position to be, you know, even if I thought about, you know, trying out for the NBA or anything, because they had a lot of NBA camps that you can just go to and pay for and, you know, try out. And a lot of people would always, you know, saying, come on, man, just, you know, give it one more shot. And I just, you know, I made peace with it, you know, years ago. You know, I actually knew that that the God didn't have me going to the NBA. That wasn't in my plan. My plan was to, you know, use my platform and to help other young women, young men to not make the same decisions that I made.
Yeah, and you know that was one of the reasons I wanted to reach out to you and talk to you about this because you know I know that you are a Central Ohio Columbus legend. I mean, there's no doubt about that. When they mention the best players of all time, your name has to be in that conversation. But I want people because, you know, people listen to my show from all over the state and, you know, other states. And I want other people to hear your story, especially some younger people that maybe not knew. You know, if you're from Columbus, you know who you are. But maybe if you're from another
Mm-hmm.
part of the state and you're younger, you probably maybe not have heard of you. So I want people to know your
Right.
story, you know, not just simply from the basketball standpoint, because that was phenomenal.
Right.
And speaking of phenomenal, you know, I want to end with a, you know, kind of a high your senior year. You team up with Kenny Gregory, who's signed to play at the University of Kansas for Roy Williams.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing, and I don't know if you thought this was funny, but your coach was it Dave Fay?
Yeah, Coach Dave Fay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did he cut you like in the first week of the season? For
Uh, yeah, I guess that's what. Yeah, I guess that's what you want to call it. Yeah.
for not missing
Uh,
practice or
Missing
something.
practice. Yeah, I didn't show up to practice. I think I was either late or I didn't show up at all, and he cut me.
So I think you found out quickly though. He took a poll from the team whether they wanted you back, and it was 11-0. They wanted you back.
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. I mean, it's you know, you know, at times, you know, when I was a teenager, I could be a little standoffish and a little idiotic. So, you know, that was my mistake, and I'm glad that he did what he did because you know, he stood his ground, which you know, which was a good thing. And I wasn't trying to ruffle his feathers or anything. I was just, you know, just being a butthole and just not listening.
So this season, you know, it's uh, the first Division One district title in school history, and I'm not sure it might be the only Division One district title in school history.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, you guys finished 19-6, undefeated in the City League, which was just awesome back then. Um,
Yeah.
but that season started out kind of rocky, 4-4, but you know, when you go inside that schedule, you're talking about 3 games down at the City of Palms, and then you lost that game to Bryan Station um, from Kentucky, and you guys are at 4-4.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the start of that season and the trip to Florida for the City of Palms and all that?
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but when we went to Florida, I didn't play. I got sick.
Oh, you had the flu down there. Was that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. I never. Yeah. As soon as I got down there, Man, I don't know what happened, but I got real sick, and I had to stay in the hotel for the whole weekend.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure if I would have played, I'm pretty sure we would have had a couple W's.
So you guys, you know, played this Bryan Station team. Do you remember this Jaron Brown who had 40 points against you guys?
I kind of vaguely I do remember it because I think he had a nice jump shot because he was a shooter. I think I do remember that he was tearing our ass up.
So the game, I actually was at this game, and I know you'll remember this game, the Coaxal National Hoop Classic at Battelle Hall.
Oh yeah,
You guys played St. John's Prospect Hall.
Yeah, they had
And
the 7-footer.
yeah, you guys were really competitive in that game for a long time, and then they opened it up. Damian Wilkins ended up having like 22 points. Jason Capel had 14. Interesting, the team that ends up knocking you out of the tournament that year, Zanesville, played that day as well, and they beat Oak Hill Academy, which was a huge deal back then. But I remember it was the first time I ever saw you and Kenny play together, and you guys had other good like Joe Cooper and who played at
Von
Ohio.
Carter.
Yeah, Von Carter.
Art Mackey.
Art Mackey.
Yeah.
You had a guy named Sylvester. Did you guys?
Yeah, Sylvester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
our guard.
do you remember that game at the? I think it was at the convention center in downtown.
Yeah, Battelle Hall. Yeah, I remember it. We played on that weird floor. It was kind of like
yes.
It was weird. I don't know. It was kind of like plastic, but it was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I vividly remember you because that was like the first time I had seen you since junior year was a wash for you in Ohio. And then you come back and that was the first time I had seen you, and you guys win like 15 out of your last 16 games that year heading into that Zanesville game. But before that, that city, not the City League Championship game, but the game that got you in there against Columbus West. It was 69, what was it? 69-66. Kenny had 26, you had a 23. Roy Williams was at this game. Columbus West at the time had Kevin King and Mike Redd, Antonio Gibbons. Coach Fay said that was the most electric game he had ever been involved with, and he had been the head coach at Independence since it started in '76. Do you remember the atmosphere? It was at Independence. Obviously high level talent on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when we beat them because we went in the West too and knocked them off at West. So when they came there and we got them right at the end because I think we had got a steal, and it was either me or Vine had got the layup, and we went up 3, and they tried to throw the ball in, but we tipped it, and the time ran out, and we all ran to the locker room.
And you mentioned Vaughn. Vaughn Carter maybe doesn't get mentioned as much as some other people, but he was a huge part of your team.
Yes, he was a very, very huge part of our team. He was a stud. He was always there when we needed him, no matter what. He was always the high energy guy, always wanted to play defense. And that's the one thing I liked about Vaughn is that he wanted to play defense. You don't get a lot of people that likes to play defense.
So you guys go on, you win the City League, you beat Columbus Brookhaven, who I think that game was at Capitol, and you'll end up seeing Brookhaven in a couple of games again in the tournament. But before that, you absolutely just crush Newark, 85-55. And their coach, Gary Walters, he's a legendary coach in Central Ohio. He said, and you'll find this, he said, we've played a lot of championship quality teams over the years, such as, Lyndon McKinley, Camp McKinley, Dayton Roth, Toledo Macomber. And tonight, Independence was as good as any of them. And your coach had said that, and you even said in the paper that you didn't know if you guys could play any better than you played that night.
Yeah, it was. We didn't expect that. I mean, obviously coming into the game, we was all expecting to win the game, but to play as efficiently as we did was just, it was unbelievable.
And then you get another big game, district semifinals. I'm sure this was raw. This was at the Columbus Fairgrounds, sellout game, 5,000 people. You beat Brookhaven 79-76.
Mm-hmm.
Antoine Lavender had 34 points in this game. From what I understand, people that were there said he was unbelievable in this game.
He was the best player on the floor that day. I could honestly say that. I just thank God that I love to play defense, and I had to switch off on him because he was killing everybody that we put in front of him. So I had made a decision to switch off on him in the second half. So with me being able to move, and I was bigger, so I just made it hard for him, and stopped him from getting the buckets that he was getting at random, because he was getting buckets at will. So we had to try to figure out how to do something about it. So, and I just slowed him down a little bit. And then, we just kept knocking. And then, we got a comfortable little 5-point lead. Then they came down and scored. And then it was trade buckets after that. So we kind of held them off. But it was a good game, because without him, they go down bad.
Yeah, you guys were down 10 heading into the fourth of this game, but you come back and win. You had 27 points, but the thing about you in this game was you were 15 of 16 from the free throw line.
Mm-hmm.
People don't.
Yeah, I just knew it.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
No, I knew I had to get my head down and get to the basket, because I knew that couldn't nobody stop me. So all my whole focus was, just put your head down and get to the basket.
Now, do you remember the next game, the Westerville South game? You had 3 fouls like 3 minutes into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenny obviously had a really good game this night, very efficient as he was a lot of nights. You ended up coming up big down the stretch, and you beat Westerville South 68-58. They had Adam Wolf, who ended up playing at Michigan State, I believe.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Adam Wolf.
Yeah, so you guys were, I think Joe Cooper was in foul trouble that night as well. So, it was an uphill battle. That's frustrating when you get in foul trouble that early in the game. It just seems like nothing can go right after that.
Yeah, that's just another example of, the refs being a part of the game. You know what I mean? Because when you know for a fact that you got a high-powered offense, the only thing you got to do is just take some of the bullets out of the gun, and you can't fire it. So
this would set up the big one, the regional semifinal game against Zanesville. And Von Carter had said prior to this game, he said, "We've been so ready to play Zanesville and Westland all year. I say let's skip practice this week and get on with it. I've been more fired up about this than the city championship game." So you guys obviously knew, Zanesville had won 71 of 73. They were number one in the state heading into this game with you. So you guys knew, you knew about them heading into this game.
Yeah. We knew exactly about them. We knew what their game plan was, and we knew that the key to them was going to be Trav and Seth Martin. So that was going to be their two keys. So our plan was to make sure that we made it bad for Seth, and make sure we doubled their guards, and make sure that we made it hard for them.
So this is kind of, I guess this game was probably played to their liking, 57-46. It's pretty, they go on a big run in the third and fourth quarter and get the lead out a little bit. Travis Young, you mentioned, is one of the more underrated guards, I think, to ever play in Ohio. He doesn't get talked about a lot. When people think about that team, they obviously think about Seth Martin. But they had other great players on that team. Your 11-game winning streak comes to a close here. Kenny had an unbelievable 11 of 16, 27 points. But overall, just wasn't a good shooting night. And Zanesville, is really good defensively,
Mm-hmm.
especially in that era. But so your high school career comes to an end, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure at this point you've got a lot of thoughts going through your head. What's next for Esteban Weaver?
Man, well, at that time, I didn't even want to think about basketball because, up until that point, I've had basketball being the whole focal point of my life. So, once my senior year was over, I just really just like left basketball alone. Like, I just wanted to do something different. You know what I mean? Get away from the thing that's been having me so tied up all these years. Because I never really had an opportunity to grow up and be a kid when I was growing up. I never had really opportunities to, go out and play in the neighborhood with my friends or none of that because I was always gone. I was always in somebody's city playing basketball, traveling. So, after that, I just wanted to what it felt like to just be regular and not have to think about basketball and, just let me try something different. So I just actually just left it alone.
So I think one of the cool things is you don't graduate from Independence, but you end up getting your GED. You go down to Tallahassee Community
Mm-hmm.
College, which is I think was number one in the country when you were down there.
Yeah.
And then you end up at Central State, playing there, and most people know the rest of the story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
one thing I want to, even after your season and when you're down in Tallahassee, is there still a lot of contact with colleges, or at this point are you hearing from NBA teams? What's going on as you're going through this, JUCO community college transition in your basketball life?
Yeah. Well, I was getting contacted. Well, not me personally, but college coaches, NBA scouts would contact, my coach because when I had left to go to Florida, nobody knew where I was at first. And then when I actually left and we went to Florida, um, they started to figure out where I was. So, I would get phone calls from it was mainly like Indiana, Cleveland, Detroit, like the Midwest,
Yeah.
because I was a Midwest kid. So it was mainly those three teams, and they would just call and check on me, and coach would be like, "Hey, your boys called and checked on you, see how you was doing, and just certain things like that." So it was cool.
So I want to close with this. I got three quick questions I want to ask you. One
Okay.
is, to the people out there that maybe not have had seen you play,
Hmm.
how would you describe to them the way you played? And is there anybody in today's game that you say, yeah, that guy kind of looks like me back in the day?
Yeah. Well, that's crazy because I've been asked that question a lot. So I would probably say you can just take D Wade and Russell Westbrook and smash them together, and then that would be me.
What was your because you were a great ball handler. I mean, you could do pretty much every. I mean, your shot had to improve as you got older. But
Hmm.
what was your favorite part of being a basketball player?
Just the intensity, just the love of the game, just knowing that every time I step on the floor, I'm giving it all I got because this is what I love to do. So, just that in that situation like there, it's just the pure of the game.
And you don't have to mention the name of the school, but what was the craziest like recruiting story that you have?
Oh man,
I knew that was gonna be.
man, I got a few, but I'll say this one, and I ain't going to the school. But we, I flew down there illegally on a private jet, and I was, man, they had me staying up. They had me staying in this big mansion, had me driving in his nice cars, all down there for the weekend. And I wasn't even supposed to be down there, but I snuck down there illegally, and they got me on a private jet and flew me down there. I went down there. It was a lot of crazy stories, especially my sophomore year.
If you could have played for any college team, what team would you have played for?
Ohio State.
It'd have been a great time. Would you have been would Randy Ayers been there when you would have played there if you would have played?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he was recruiting me there because it was him and I think Jerry Francis was assistant at the time, and Sakuti and Dave Sakuti. I think they were their assistants. So yeah, I was getting recruited by them heavily.
And the last thing I want to end with this is, what is Estaban Weaver's message to got young kids, young guys that are playing basketball right now or anything athletically? What is your message to them?
Man, my message to them is just, make sure you stay focused. Make sure you make good judgments, make sure good decisions, keep good people around you, keep God first, and just make sure that you lead with your heart and not with your head.
And I wanted to give you a second too, because I know you haven't mentioned her yet, but I know your grandma was a huge part of you, and just what did she mean to you? And I'm sure that now that you're almost 44, you that it would be great for her to see, where you're at now.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, she meant everything to me. She still is everything to me. She was the first woman that showed me how to love somebody. She's the first woman to show me what love is like. And she's just the best, man.
Well, Esteban, or as a lot of your Columbus people refer to you as Esty, right? Is that the?
Yes, yes, sir.
I know there's going to be so many. I know there's going to be so many people in Columbus that will be love to hear from you again. And thank you for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. And
oh, no problem.
Like
no
I
problem.
said,
Thanks for having me.
Like I said earlier, man, keep making an impact out there. And it would have been great to see you in the NBA, but like I said, God definitely had another plan for you. So thanks
Yes,
again,
sir.
man, for doing this.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, man. You have a blessed day.
You too, man.
All right.